Hello, my beautiful people. Welcome to another episode of The Calling. Today we have a dear friend, a beautiful being, Daniela Arango. She is a spiritual business mentor. She is also a psyche, a channeler, an activator of full body goosebumps, and a beautiful soul. Daniela, I'm so happy that we have a moment to be together here. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much for having me. I love conversations with you and being in your energy and just sharing this deep conversations that we usually have when we happen to come across. Thank you for having me.
Such a beautiful experience. I also, every time that we get together, and even before we practically ever exchanged, I felt your presence and I felt your dynamic and I felt your energy. I have a little bit, I share with you, I have a little bit of like a mother attitude towards you from the distance. Yes, because for me, you are the next generation. And this is so important for me as a master healer, as a teacher. It is so important that I love seeing people who are stepping forward regardless of their age and leading the spiritual realm into a place that I'm content thinking that this is our future. People can be super busy in thinking about their legacy as their business. But in my experience, you're part of my legacy. Do you know what I mean?
I hear you.
Yeah, you got that. The people that I love and that I appreciate and send my positive frequencies towards them and clapping my hand and even if it is in my room, to see how beautiful they are and how beautiful they serve. This is part of really what are we praying that will happen here. So
I received that so deeply. Thank you so much. And it's so beautiful because actually when I just was taking a moment to look at the podcast and look at some of the episodes that you have put out, which are absolutely incredible with remarkable people just like you. And I was looking at, I remember a few years ago when we met and the deep conversation about really stepping into you as the master healer that you are, as the guide, as the mentor to so many of us, and just stepping into that claiming of that identity and that expression of yourself with undeniable and unwavering conviction. And I am so happy to hear that from you because I hear in your tone, I hear you sitting in your throne, you're sitting in your, but not in the throne of hierarchy, but more of this is who I am. And this has been my place and my legacy and my purpose and my life. So it's so beautiful to hear that from you. Like I recognize you and I see you so deeply. So thank you for those words.
Amazing. Thank you so much for all that you're doing. And I feel that would be like a beautiful place for us to start, right? Like one of the things that I love in your frequency, first is that regardless of your age, there's no link to your age in your service, which is the ancient soul is so present. And with it, also the evolution and where are we heading is very present. And I feel that one of the things we have in common, and we just exchange here, is that it is so important that the people who are healers and spiritual leaders will really master material plan as a spiritual aspect. And I see you doing it in such a beautiful way.
Thank you. Yeah, I think one of the things that comes through as you're speaking is this age sometimes barrier of who am I to say the things that I'm saying, or how do I gain respect even though I'm not at a certain age and things like that. I think throughout my life there has been this just ability to be able to support, to say the right things, to allow people to lean on me in terms of opening up their hearts and opening up what's moving through them, and me being able to just guide from a very deep place for a very just simple but yet very powerful way. And one of the things that I've noticed with so many of us who have this ability to just guide, say the right words, to allow people to lean into us and that responsibility of supporting people, is that a lot of the times is that pressure of how do I gain respect? And I think for me, even though looking at my work and all the things that I have done so far, it could feel like it's always been so easy, but it really has been this deep development within myself to respect myself and to not look for that respect, to not try to gain that respect, but to actually allow myself to relax into just being who I am. So there is something that I want to share here that is this. I remember that one of the things that I had pressure on myself when doing this kind of work, and when I mean this kind of work is just basically the work of guidance, the work of mentorship, the work of support or consulting. And because that's healing to me, is that healing to me is being able to reflect back to somebody what they're maybe not seeing, what they're not so clear about, and being able to reflect it in a way that it lands for them, so that then can they make different choices and can they remember who they are, so that from that frequency they can create a different outcome in their lives, and they can change the physiology of their body so that they can act at their highest frequency. With all this said, I wanted to say that a lot of the times I had this pressure to have a methodology or a practice or something that was like my thing, so that I can say I've created this. So then this is my value. This is why people should respect me. But what I've noticed is that there is not so much new information out there, especially with all of us who are quote unquote channels, right? We are tapped into a greater wisdom. So it's not like there is a lot of new information, but my ability to be able to take that pressure off myself. And I feel like anybody who's listening to this podcast, this conversation is going to land really deeply, especially if there's a lot of pressure on you to perform, to gain that respect and to validate the reason why you're sharing what you're sharing, or being who you're being, or gaining abundance of compensation for the work that you do. One of the things that I shifted for me was that I am not it. I carry it. And when we look at great speakers, great mentors, people that work with transformation and personal development, it's not that they're saying something necessarily new, but it's the way that they're transmitting what they're transmitting. Is when you are going to, you can also talk about church, and it's not that they're kind of saying anything new. They're reading from something that everybody has read or within their religion. So it's not that there's necessarily something new that we're sharing here, but it's the way in which we're delivering it. And we deliver it through our unique gifts, which are not anything I'm super psychic and I know how to read people and I know how to do this and that, super advanced. But it's the simplicity of my heart, my voice, and my energy, and just the right people that will resonate with that. I moved from feeling like I needed to be something as special into I just carry the light. I am the vehicle that carries the light and shares it through. Like it moves through me. And through my gifts, which are nothing extraordinary, although they are extraordinary, which is my voice, that cannot be taken away from me. That's who I am. It's my energy that can be taken away from me. That's who I am. And it's my heart that has a frequency that vibrates at a very unique frequency to those who are open to receiving that. I think for all of us who have this deep responsibility, I don't know for you, Homaya, but for me, growing up, it was always this very heavy burden in a way, if I can be completely honest, of carrying so much wisdom, carrying so much knowledge, so much knowing, that a lot of the times it was a very heavy burden, because I was the one who was always saying the truth when not everybody wants to hear the truth, especially from a 10-year-old, 15-year-old, 20-year-old. Yeah. So a lot of the times I didn't understand why I felt like a burden, why I needed to kind of bump up myself to be able to feel like I was respected. Although I know that it was just an illusion within my own projection of my fears. If we can shift from the understanding that there is light and we carry it, there's wisdom that's not new, it's a collective information that we get access to, we have easy access to. That's being connected. That's being connected to the soul. That's being connected to a higher energy. It moves through us, through our specific gifts. And that's when I feel on purpose. I feel aligned. I feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And it's never about, as you're saying, it's never about the business, the legacy, the thing. No, because a lot of the times, especially for healers as well, is this idea of, am I worthy enough to be highly compensated, to charge the prices that I charge, and to have a business that's actually highly profitable? And a lot of the times is because we're asking the questions, but who am I to receive that amount of money? Who am I to be that seen looked after, loved, cared, all of those things. But it's because we think that there's a thing that we need to be or that we need to produce in order to get the compensation. But it's not about us, it's what we carry with us and our decision and commitment to share it with people through our gifts.
Yeah. I love everything you said, the way that you express it. And this is actually the indication of what you're sharing. Like the way that you're sharing in this highlight, the way that you're able to highlight, and the way that you're able to reorganize the transmission. And as for the content, one of the things that I feel that liberated me, and I find it in your words, and I feel that in some way both you and I are working with people who are sensitive, people who are healers in their quality. Excuse me. So I feel, and we're all cleaning, right?
Yes. Yes.
So I feel that there is this mistake, I would say. Literally, I feel that we can say it like that. That either we carry it, so we are meaningless, it has a priority and superiority. So therefore, I don't need to care to my body. I don't need to care for my body. I don't need to care for my well-being, for my house, for my nourishment. I don't need to take care of that. Which is actually, if I don't take care of that, how can I carry it? If I don't take care of that, how can I hold space? Because the frequencies, when they are coming, they are intense. When you speak truth, the reason that most of the people do not speak truth is because they don't have the energy to hold truth, frequency in their body. So they prefer to dim their light. They prefer to dim their voice. They prefer to make it a little bit like how we say, like with a certain numbness bar that make it possible, because carrying the truth is demanding. So this is one thing to look at. And the other thing is, does it matter? Like I'm really pushing here a button for the audience and activating something for our conversation. Does it really matter how much you earn for what you're doing? And in that sense, I'm saying, let's clean a little bit more. And what I'm saying here is that if it is easier in your mind to say, let's have this number, because it's easier for you to name this number for what you earn and for what you do, this is great. But then actually the number doesn't really matter. The same that you're able to carry truth, you can carry a certain number and align yourself with that number. The number does not really mean a thing. There are codes to the level of energy that you're able to handle between you and yourself. And the story is that a lot of healers are saying, if I have a certain number on my price, then I'm able to deliver that to more people and so on. But I don't feel that divine consciousness is occupied in your numbers. If they want your message to get to someone, or your healing or your medicine to get to someone, they will make it there, regardless of numbers and regardless of algorithm.
The first thing that comes as we're speaking about this, I love this conversation, by the way. And the first thing is how do we not, then all of a sudden is about it, not about me. And how do I make that the thing? I talk about a lot of how we make that heaven or that the aliens or that the thing versus it's right here. This is the only thing that it actually is. This moment, as every single moment, that's the only thing that is actually it. And we are in it as it. We are the moment. But what I find with this idea of releasing the pressure for me to have something to then be worthy of compensation, of validation, of love, of recognition, of impact, is that when I take that away from me, meaning I am not it, I carry it, all of a sudden, what is about me is my gifts, and then there's just play. If I am carrying it because I am part of it, I don't carry it as an external borrow thing. It moves through me. But as it moves through me, of course, like I reflect it, like it's me, it's part of us, it's all of us. It's not, there's no discrimination. And I think that is the piece that a lot of the times we have between spirituality and humanness, is this discrimination is like one or the other, or more of one or less of the other. So the way that I love to look at this in terms of bringing it all together is it moves through me inevitably as part of me. But then when I focus on my gifts and when I focus on the play of, I literally just get to play. And especially eventually I will talk about numbers, which also is related to playfulness. But it's the seriousness of having to force ourselves to be something or to have something to give or to do or to have in order to be worthy. That pressure is what moves us away from the play, is that moves us away from this like light that we carry. So anyway, so the light moves through us, and it's not something that I need to try to do. It just is. So then all of a sudden what it's actually about, it's about my unique gifts and my expansion through that. So my voice, loving my voice, allowing my voice to be heard, the development of my character in this human life through my words, because a lot of the times for us is clearing our ability to say our truth, clearing and healing our ability to speak what we actually want to say. Like that in itself, it's a lifetime of evolution.
Totally.
Then we talk about energy, same thing, learning to clear our energy, learning to manage our energy, learning to cut whatever it's like, to command our energy. There's a lifetime of evolution through our energy. And then the other gifts that I talked about, which was my heart, that let's not even talk about that one. That's like a huge piece of evolution that I focus on. How much can I open my heart to be loved? How much can I open my heart to be vulnerable? How much I open my heart, and noticing the seasons in life in which I close it and I open it again, and what that gets to look like. So it's not that our life is meaningless. It's not at all, but it was never about trying to be something. It was always about expanding and experiencing ourselves through the development of our gifts, through allowing ourselves to be authentically expressed in this lifetime.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is interesting because it is for me looking at the limitation of spiritual paradigms. Many healers and many light workers are speaking about paradigms that needs to be changed and looking at healing. And it's almost like a knife cannot cut itself, or like a balance cannot measure itself. And the mind cannot see itself. And in that sense, many times you're moving into a spiritual state and you cannot see the spiritual paradigms that are actually preventing you from evolving spiritually, energetically, and not allowing you to serve into the future, like really creating the legacy, because you're not willing to look at the spiritual ideas that you're carrying instead of being your singularity. It's enough. You were designed to be who you are, that as you describe, this voice, these energetic transmissions, this heart that you have, and the processes and commitment that you are carrying for that. And instead it is being, we can say, I would feel the word, it's hard to say it, but it's being polluted by spiritual agendas, which are far from really carrying energy. Spiritual agendas are very connected to religions and mysticism and fear.
And I think that mysticism, like there is that part of a lot of the times of this talk that it's so esoteric, that it's so mystic, that's okay, but what does that actually mean? Okay, what are my spiritual ideas? What is my spiritual path? There's just all of these things when it's so much more simple than that. I think as long as I can remember, I've always been saying like we as humans make things a lot more complicated than they have to be. And it's like that spiritual agenda, that all of that, it's so simple as, let's put it, for example, somebody that's running a business, which is most of our clients that are running their business, they're expanding their work, they're allowing themselves to be seen by more people. That can literally is as simple as heart work, like my heart. How am I protecting my heart? What do I feel like this? Again, like the biggest, for example, for me, one of the biggest things that was stopping the evolution of my business was that responsibility of, I feel like for me to be able to see by more people, for me to be able to impact more people, I must have something more. Like I must all of a sudden have this thing that I need to be. Yeah, for real, this thing that I need to be. And also the pressure, the subconscious pressure of what that will look like all of a sudden. Then if I am this thing, then imagine the amount of people that I would have on top of me. And then what if I fail? What if I'm not enough? What if I can't hold it? And that is so real. There's no spiritual bypassing here. There's no mysticism here. It's just literally sitting with ourselves and asking, what is my body so afraid of holding and why? And how can we look into that?
What do you
The
feel
same thing.
when you're
Go.
working with your clients? What do you recognize? What, when you were saying, what is this thing that my body is afraid to carry? What do you recognize?
That's the thing, is it's a lot of the times being seen by more people and not being enough. But again, we go back to, how am I not enough if I carry it? And what is actually for me to develop and what is actually for me to claim are my gifts. But I think when we talk about gifts, you think about you need to be something extraordinary, which is as simple as what I just said. So how do we make sure that we keep the spirituality not so out of reach, but how do we bring it into the human experiences? My gifts are simple as my voice. It's not like how much I can go deep into reading something. That's just, or reading somebody or doing some kind of energetic magic. That's beautiful. That's amazing. But I think that also puts a lot of pressure on performance. So it's the not discriminating, the simplicity of the human, and also the subtleties of spirituality. So it's, let's talk about numbers, for example. You said something about numbers doesn't necessarily mean anything. The thing is, they don't mean anything frequency, but they do mean something when they're down in this body. So when I had a lot of pressure in numbers, I got so serious. Like one of the biggest things that I've noticed as a pattern in my business, of the growth of my business, is when I make things really serious because I care so deeply, because I'm so committed to possibly positively impacting the world. When I put a lot of pressure on myself, my business gets stagnant.
Heavy. It's just heavy.
It's just
And how
heavy.
can you
It's just
flow?
heavy.
Yes.
So the shift always is coming back to play. How do I come back to play when I realize that it's not something external of me, something that I have to prove or do or be or have, that it actually moves through me? And that my focus in my business is, how do I develop my voice? How do I get better in my energy? How do I open my heart more to be just what I am? Because we're not loved for being perfect. We're loved for being who we are.
Daniela, can I say that for you, I say it like that, would it be accurate to say that for you, the bridge between the unique frequency that we hold, we hold, as a channeler, as a healer, as a spiritual leader, and the frequency of matter? So for you, the bridge is playfulness? This is how you feel that?
100%. Yes.
How does it come to life for you?
So, for example, that's what I was saying. So when there's a lot of pressure in my business of having to deliver the responsibilities, all of these things, because I care so deeply, because I'm so committed, because I really want to do a positive impact in the world, all of a sudden it's so heavy. So then my body really cannot hold this. So then subconsciously, everything gets a little bit more extending to protect ourselves.
Oh.
So then you're saying numbers don't mean anything energetically. They don't. We know, we intellectually know that, but the body, because in the physical realm, everything has a meaning, and the meaning is what actually creates the experience of that thing. So for a lot of people, we cannot say that $1 has the same meaning as $1,000. For a lot of people, we'd say having a 6-figure business has the same meaning as having a 7-figure business, because their experience and their body, depending on where they come from, depending on their history, depending on what they have been exposed to, it's a completely different frequency, although it is the same, but it feels very different. Again, knowing that numbers, they don't mean anything, but they have a different activation or a different sensation, a different feeling, a different emotion in our bodies. When we go back to play, again, when I have put a lot of pressure to access a number, there's a lot of pressure for me to access that number, because it comes from this seriousness. that kind of constrict my body and actually pushes me to something that I don't really feel that it's going to be exciting. But when we allow ourselves to, like, what it actually is that we get to play with all of these frequencies. $1,000, $20,000, $50,000, 100,000, 350, a million. We get to play with all of them. Where do you want to play? And that playfulness, or that play, that game, is the game of evolution. So at a different frequency, your voice is going to feel different. Your energy is going to require different things. And your heart is going to be also expanded. So how do we develop into allowing ourselves to hold more energy is the play, or the game of, I'm going to play at this frequency that me uniquely activates different things within my gifts. So my gifts will be challenged, pushed, develop in a very different way in every different number. So it really is, as you're saying, not about the number doesn't mean anything, but the theme of the game is how that number feels in our body and what is actually going to activate, what it's actually going to require from us to allow ourselves to go into that specific game of whatever number you decide to go into. So it's like it's an adventure, each different number. It doesn't matter which number you pick. It's going to activate different things within you. It's going to mean something different for you, and it's going to challenge your gifts in very unique ways.
Yeah, it's interesting, your vision. I can share with you my vision, which is, I feel there's like a little tweak between both. And let's see if we can, if I'm correct in my reading or not, and if we can play even more.
Love it.
Because what I hear from you now is there are numbers. So there are like, which are a representation of your presence, a representation of your touch, and a representation of a field where you want to play. Right. And you gave few numbers. So that could be, I don't know, 300, 3,000, 15,000, million, etc., etc. But what I wonder, if shouldn't we open up the entire range of numbers? Shouldn't we open up as a methodology, as a presentation? Because when you are channeling something, when you are working with a client, you work with a client regardless of who they are and what they are. You're tapping into their state. One of the things that is so challenging for healers is that they will say, but I can work with everyone. It's like I can work with anyone I want. And this is correct. You can work with everyone you want. So why don't we open also this frequency on the material realm and saying, instead of one thing is that I have hierarchy, which is not hierarchy, of how do I move in different stages to different types of fields of play, or because of my unique ability as a healer, as a light worker, as a light activator, to play with all frequencies. Why don't part of my work would be to play with all frequencies, also with number, and liberate myself through that, instead of liberating myself one number at a time, one digit at a time, because if I do that, I'm still holding myself in spiritual paradigms of a meaning, while my natural constitution is the one that have the control panel, and I can decide that I just zip around and get more and more energy and more ownership on my ability to play with everything.
100%.
Instead of buying one ticket at a time, why don't we buy a ticket to the Luna Park?
I 100% hear you. And I don't think there is a right or wrong within what we're saying. I think both of them exist. For me, for example, I have noticed that when it's too wide and too open, I lose a little bit of focus. I lose a little bit of intention and focus. For me, it works better by I'm always staying on, show me what can happen and what else is possible. Like, I'm open to this and more. I'm open to this and blowing my mind. Like, I'm always open for a wider range of possibilities. But what I've noticed is that we work in cycles and in seasons. And my mind, because this is the thing, as concept, I work better when I have not necessarily like a target or a goal, but something that I am expanding through, that I'm allowing myself to expand through. For me, it has worked better to have some kind of range that I am playing with in the moment, because that helps my focus, that helps my to make things more simple. When it's too wide, for example, when you're saying, as a healer, I can help anybody. That works energetically beautifully. I can, and we know we can. But in the marketplace, in this human plane, it works better when I'm talking to a specific person, not like discrimination or niching too much that I feel that I'm so suffocated, right? But it does help my brain to package something that then speaks to somebody that is able to come through. So in business and in marketing, and again, coming back to this plane of the material realm, it works better when I get a little bit more specific, even though I know that I can be talking to somebody that is at a certain level of business trying to get a specific outcome. And I know that it doesn't matter if my frequency is touching somebody that is slightly outside of that range, they will also come through. But it helps make everything more simple when I know what's the kind of game that I'm playing, because that keeps me focused, that keeps me determined, that keeps me in the game, versus just, again, sometimes I feel like the spirituality of just open to everything, wide range, and that works. But for me specifically, knowing that I can go deep into something has helped me with that focus and that clarity, and that let me get nitty gritty in this game is fun.
Yeah, I do believe that it's really amazing when we can define the playground. So this is what we're playing, and now it's swing. This is what we're playing, and now it's jumping. This is what we're playing. And at the same time, I feel that there is a strong capacity inside of someone who knows that they are niching down, if we say it like that, and saying, okay, those are my boundaries. This is the playground, that this is what we're playing now. But then what is your attitude when you are playing now that? Do you remember while you are playing now swing that you've took on yourself to play swing? This is the game now. It doesn't mean that you cannot play anything else. You can, if this is what you want, and this is part of the play. So when I describe what I described, it's not to ignore this playground. I do agree with you that when we define a certain playground, we can also become more professional and more of service and so on. But if we tapped into a world, a realm, which is our playground, and we forget that we decided to play this game, and we can just tap out if we are not finding evolution in that, and can choose upon another realm, we do have the control panel. We do need to recall that that was a choice. Because it's a similar of creating reality, or the way that you play with reality. You can just disappear into the screen. And that it become, this is your playground, and you forget your humanness. You also forget your divinity. You forget your mightiness. You forget that this is a choice, and you let loose of your free will. But if you're tapping into a playground and you're playing full on, I remember one of the things that we had in one of the conversations, you told me, this is how it is when you enter, how do you call it? Like when you enter the gate? No, you didn't say the gate.
Arena.
The arena. Do you remember that?
Yes.
This is how it is when you enter the arena. Yes. But if you are in the arena and you forget about yourself, this is when you are losing the game. This is when you're becoming heavy. This is where you forgot that you made the choice and that you still have the freedom, although you're in the arena. You have the freedom. Yeah, I feel that that was the highlight that I wanted to activate in us, this power that you get from your free will to choose and to recall that you just tapped into a game.
And that's the beauty of, again, what we actually said that this podcast was going to be about, and what we intended it to be about, which was how do we carry that connection between the human and the spirit. And that really is like the human is this game, and then the spirit is a reminder that we carry, like we're already it. There is no beginning, there is no end. We are it. We're it. This is it. I talk about this a lot because I have had a near-death experience that really changed things for me and catapulted me into this is it. And I talk about this a lot. And every time I find myself lost or a little bit in doubt or disconnected from the wider view, I always come back to this is it. This is it. This is it. There's no beginning. There's no end. We are it. This is it. That's just, it is it. So as we carry that knowledge throughout the trials and the evolution, the growth of allowing ourselves to hold more money, allowing ourselves to have more impact, allow ourselves to be heard more, to be expressed more, to play in all these different numbers and all these different accomplishments and all these different adventures, always staying connected to, at the end of the day, in this moment, this is it. This is it. We are it. How beautiful that is, that it gets to be like that. And I feel like that's the way that we move from this very spiritual concepts of meditating in a mountain towards, no, it's in this moment right now, right here, right now, through my gifts, through the understanding that I am it, and having fun as I grow and evolve.
Thank you so much. I love this conversation. I love the endless quality of this conversation. I'm looking forward for what will unfold, both for the listeners, those who are with us. I really would love them to have a moment where they reflect how can they bring more playfulness and recall that this is a play and that they are playing and what is their type of game. I feel that this is a beautiful moment for them to contemplate in the light of this conversation.
Yes.
Thank you for your presence.
Thank you for having me. Such a pleasure always.
Thank you.